welcome to the Dadhammer Podcast, where we discuss all things Warhammer. I am your host, David the Warboss, and I am joined by my friends Medicae Steve.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Good.
To say something.
Yeah, you got to say something, Steve. And the Chaplain.
It's good to be back again.
Very much so. We got a little bit of a new format here for anyone listening to this. We're trying something a little different. We're going video as well, so you should be able to see this on the respective streaming channels, Twitch and YouTube, but YouTube specifically. So check us out there. A little bit of a different format, but the same great show content that you are used to if you've been checking us out on the podcast format. We have got a great show for you. We are going to talk the latest bit of news, kind of came out of nowhere, the Age of Sigmar Spearhead new game mode. Very exciting. We think it's pretty obvious. It's going to be like Combat Patrol, but there's a lot of implications, a lot of excitement around that. So we're going to talk all things Age of Sigmar Spearhead. And then we're also going to review talk through the preview of the Las Vegas Open coming up. We're going to give our predictions, and there's all kinds of implications there for 2024. Very exciting for the online preview where they show off Warhammer models, miniatures, new games, you name it. Could be really anything. So very, very exciting. Thank you so much for listening to our show or watching if you're looking at this. If you like what you're hearing, make sure to rate, follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell, whatever you like to do to get more of our show, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And then finally, you can find us on our website, dadhammerstudios.com, or Dadhammer Podcast is what we were previously. So we're branching out a little bit, dadhammerstudios.com, and you'll find us also on all of our various social media platforms. All right, that's the end of the advertisements. I hope you enjoyed those. There's no more products to advertise. I don't have a blender or a new appliance, or anything like that to advertise. So that's going to be it. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the Age of Sigmar Spearhead. So if you are unaware, this was just shown off very, very recently, where they've got the new box that was just kind of a announcement out of nowhere for the Stormcast Eternals. Of course, that's the Space Marines of Age of Sigmar. So that's what they're going to show off. But the Spearhead box was announced, and this is kind of what it looks like, guys. What were your thoughts initially? This looks very much like Combat Patrol. Everybody's saying that. I don't have any reason to think that it wouldn't be like Combat Patrol. That Spearhead is Combat Patrol. So, Steve, I'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts when you saw this? I know you're a huge fan of Combat Patrol. We all are, but you in particular, I know we're pretty psyched about this.
I can only hope. This will be great. I don't know. I think there needs to be a way to get into Sigmar that's sort of that beginner kind of really, really friendly, just like Combat Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, it sure looks like it, doesn't it? 16 models. I'm just looking at the kind of contents of that box, and that's right on the money. Because if you're talking Stormcast, I'm looking at like sort of a Space Marine type analogy.
Yeah.
And that's about right for the number of miniatures and stuff. So I think it would be just absolutely brilliant. I may never play a big game again because I'm never gonna get all these Combat Patrol boxes.
It's not a bad thing, right?
No, it's not. I'm just joking. I really do want to play some big games eventually, but gosh, this has just worked so well for us.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about like ease of play, but I feel like we're just playing like we've talked about before. We play more. We're learning the rules better. The games are just smoother, and we're having a great time. And I think that's the biggest part for me. And I don't know, there might be some tournament kind of stuff coming up. Do you think? Like, if they really start leaning into it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because this may, and we'll talk about this in a second, but this may, I don't know, endanger smaller games like Kill Team. Boarding actions, we talked about that. I know this is not Warcry, right? I mean, we're talking Age of Sigmar and Spearhead specifically, but this is a broader implications over all of the Warhammer games, not just Age of Sigmar, but you're looking at Combat Patrol 40K, Age of Sigmar, Spearhead. You know, Lee, what were your thoughts on this? I know you're just now getting into Age of Sigmar with your Seraphon. We talked about your lizard men that you're bringing to the table, and now they're coming out with this new mode as someone who has just really started collecting Age of Sigmar stuff. And of course, for me, I've already started a Stormcast army, and I'm brand new to this, so every model that I'm seeing here is like, oh yeah, I need all of those. I don't know if they're any good, but it doesn't matter. I see, oh man, cool. So, Lee, what were your thoughts when you first saw this announced?
I mean, when I first saw it, I was excited purely from the point of view of if I look at Seraphon and the army, I'm reading the book, I'm trying to understand the rules, I'm trying to understand how to play it, and to be honest, all those together are there's a lot. So anything where I can learn on the go is perfect, and I think this Spearhead, detachment idea is going to work really good. What was amazing was the announcement was made after I had a conversation with our 9-year-old, and obviously we're here at Dadhammer, we're always trying to get our kids involved in some aspect, like come and play the game with you, and not very successful. But my 9-year-old girl, she keeps on looking at the models. She likes to paint. She's creative. And I said to her, hey, you could go ahead and pick a Combat Patrol box, and I will buy it for you, and we can build it together. You can paint it, and then you can play against me. So she looked through them all, and she's like, no, Dad, I want like the cute ones. And I was like,
oh no,
this is Warhammer. There's nothing cute. And she was like,
there's no cute.
She's like, I like the lizard dudes. They're cute. And I was like, oh no, like the Seraphon. She referred to the Seraphon as cute. And so I was like, man. And then she's looking at me like with wide-eyed, like, I see that whole army. Are you going to give it to me, Dad? And I was like, we'll try and buy you a box. And then when this was announced, I was like, I'm going to buy her
your box.
a Seraphon Spearhead when it drops, and we can play that together. Knowing my luck, she'll completely destroy me, and that'll be it. She'll have bragging rights in the family for the next whatever, because she'll play me once, win once, and never play again, and that'll be it. So,
go undefeated.
That's it. But
if you're gonna leave, you got to go out on a high note, right?
That's it. But I think this is going to be brilliant. I think it's going to really help people like me jump into the Sigmar world, and just have a blast playing with friends. And like Steve said, short games to help teach us how to play it. So I'm excited, really excited about this one.
Yeah, likewise. I think that what Spearhead is going to do for Age of Sigmar, I hope, will be the same for what Combat Patrol did for 40K. The one thing that I wanted to bring up though is that what's going to be different? Is it just going to be Combat Patrol but Age of Sigmar? Is it just going to be the same thing? You're going to have a bunch of models in a Spearhead box, and you'll download the rules. They'll be a little limited, and I don't mean that in a bad sense. I mean, maybe simplified is a better word, but you're going to have rules that will be simplified for the Age of Sigmar models in the Spearhead box. And then are they just going to come out with some scenarios? Because what I would prefer personally is if they really tried to carve out their own thing. It's still Age of Sigmar. It's still similar to Combat Patrol with simplified rules and data sheets and all that. War scrolls, excuse me. Got to get the terminology right. But all that stuff's going to be simplified. But Age of Sigmar is a little more narrative heavy than 40K. So I'm hoping that they aren't going to simplify the missions. I hope they really still try to capture some of that narrative play of Age of Sigmar. So my question, Steve, I'll start with you. What do you think is going to be different, if anything, between Combat Patrol and Spearhead? Do you think there's going to be enough, or are they really going to go for making it feel so similar that you have an easy transition between the two?
So, until we played Age of Sigmar, I was thinking all along, I was like, oh man, AOS just looks so easy compared to 40K. That's not true. And so, moving forward, I think Combat Patrol is a nice, easy. Gosh, that word easy. Easy is not correct. Easily digestible. Like
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
bite-sized chunks of rules and chunks of units and stuff, right? So I think this will definitely be that for AOS. I think we're going to get like a bit by bit. You're going to have a small plate instead of a buffet. It's going to take a little, because I found when we started playing AOS, the list building is a little complicated in some ways. There's not, I don't know, they really simplified 10th edition as far as building your list and building your army. I thought there were a few things like you had to have this. I may be wrong. We didn't really mess with it that much, but I feel like the list building is a little bit more important or complicated in AOS than it is in 40K because there's just not as many options. You're not shooting. You're not doing. You're just trying to get everybody matched up in the combat, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I think this is a good spot to where I love your notion of being more narrative. I think you could add in that. All right, here's your mission. Halfway through the mission, turn 3 or something like that. Things are going to get different. Things are going to get dangerous. Maybe the terrain's dangerous. Maybe there's an earthquake. Maybe there's some, I don't know, you maybe some magic vortex or something that messes with all the stats. But you have this like nice bite size, just sort of game that you can kind of play with that a little bit more, and it's not, and it doesn't overly complicate the gameplay. That'd be nice.
I hope so. I really like the variety or the variability. Maybe that's a better word for it during the missions. I know that's not great for tournament players because they want consistency and even the terrain has to be set up exactly the same on every table. And I totally get that. But for us as more of the casual crowd, I want the variety. I want the random deck of cards that tells me that, okay, now there's a giant crater that opened up in the middle and everybody takes 5 mortal wounds and, now you've got 2 turns or you're dead. Like, I mean, that sounds crazy, but I want the option to be able to do that. Maybe not the standard, but I would love for them to have here's your default missions. And then, by the way, here's some crazy stuff that you could throw in because it's Age of Sigmar. And, I mean, I don't want to overstate it. Age of Sigmar doesn't have just ludicrous missions or anything, but they always have a little, I don't know. I'm looking at the missions. They've got a couple extra paragraphs in there that I keep going back to. There was one where they had 2 of the big epic, for lack of a better term, epic heroes clashing together. And if you were in the way when they came in, kind of like Godzilla and Kong, if you were in the way when they were trying to come together, you would take mortal wounds. Like it really set the scene for something cool. So I hope they do at least a little bit of that. Give you a bit of a flavor with Spearhead because that sets you up to get into the larger Age of Sigmar games. So maybe that leads into the next question. Is this going to be more of the same? Do you actually think that, and Lee, we'll go to you. Do you think that Games Workshop or Warhammer, whatever they're called now, we keep saying that. I just want that. I guess they're still Games Workshop. I wish they would just tell us. Are they Game, whatever? But if they when they come out with this, is it going to be something that they want to really spice it up and make it completely different from Combat Patrol, or do you think they'll play it safe?
I mean, I think we've seen that the Combat Patrol format works. We see that it's introducing people. People are collecting more and more Combat Patrol sets, just like Steve. He's probably got more than any one of us. He's got them hidden away somewhere in his house. I never knew it was here. What's this?
I have a dimensional pocket.
Just like a Mary Poppins bag, British reference.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen Mary Poppins. It's okay.
Okay, just checking.
Appreciate it.
I didn't know how cultured you were, but
very.
But just we've seen how it works. We've seen that the format works. We've seen the variability. Now that they're beginning to drop more combat patrol rules and scenarios in White Dwarf, I think what they're going to do is they'll play it safe. They'll let it play out, and then they'll add that complexity. I think, it's a tried and tested format. It's working. Why change it? Let's just adapt it for Sigmar and keep it rolling. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see the local gaming store, the individuals kind of branch out. Saying branch out, I mean, I have Seraphon, and then we were at a local game store, and we had a great time there, and I ended up winning a I've gone blank now.
Sylvaneth
set. See the link? Branch out, Sylvaneth trees.
Yeah, tree people. Okay,
tree
I got
people.
it.
You like that?
It's okay.
Here for the dad jokes.
Well done, dad jokes.
But
don't encourage that.
Oh, I have to, man. This is awesome.
No, this is awful.
But for me, like, that's the thing. Like, I've gone from Seraphon, I've not even played him, and I've already branched out to the tree people. But I can see people doing that, going, hey, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. So tried, tested format. I don't think it'll change, but I think you'll see White Dwarf becoming a way for them to send out those new scenarios and ways to play in the same way they're doing with 40k. So yeah. I wouldn't change it. I'd keep it rolling.
I've got a stack of pages, those tear out pages from White Dwarf with the cards and stuff that are AOS, and I'm like,
yeah, what do you do with those? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you hang on to them because you might need those one day. That's what we all say. But now, like, because that's the thing is, if anyone who maybe doesn't have a ton of time, right, families and responsibilities, what are those, right? We often talk about, Steve, you and I have joked about too, like, instead of when people retire, they go to play, shuffleboard or something and checkers and have a movie night watching old black and white. But no, we're going to be off in the cafeteria playing Warhammer in the retirement home. That's my idea of retirement. But like I am wondering though, that going back, we talked about this on the previous show with the old world. When you walk into a Warhammer store, what are you drawn to? They can only market so much. They only have so much room in there. So when you walk in, you have these walls of shelves full of miniatures, and there's just tons of games. And then they have the tables, and the tables are set up to attract visually. You want the heights of the big buildings or the bridges and the ruined stuff that's on there. I think this would be a good way to market both Age of Sigmar and 40k. And I wonder too because when you walk into a Warhammer store, they got the little demo game set up over in the corner if you want to do a demo. I wonder if the Spearhead or Combat Patrol would be the next iteration. So you do your demo, and then you come back into the store. Hey, did you like that a whole lot? Great. Here's a little, like almost like an enhanced demo or a free game day where they invite a bunch of people in. So, they could really turn this into a marketing blitz for both Age of Sigmar and 40k from the the different game modes perspective. My next question, I guess, for you guys to chew on, and Steve, will go to you, is do you think that this will actually detract from the larger Age of Sigmar games? Because with the Dadhammer group, with all of our friends, and when we get together, it's all been Combat Patrol. Because when a lot of us get together, it's not great fun for two people to play a 4 to 5 hour. Well, it is great for the two people, but if you plan on playing anybody else, give it up. So now you've got, we play Combat Patrol, so you might be able to get 2 or 3 games in as long as you don't take your time, but like we do. But do you think that Spearhead will detract or steer people away from playing the larger Age of Sigmar games?
I don't think so. I think you and I talked about this not too long ago when we may have talked about it on the podcast about the new units, or not new detachments, that may or may not, and we'll talk about that too later, that may or may not be coming to Combat Patrol. So I can see one of the negatives right now to Combat Patrol and potentially the Spearhead. You're kind of stuck in one mode. You're sort of stuck with this one 500 point ish game. You're not really motivated to go out and buy more, unless you're wanting to play some bigger games, which is fine. So I think the two complement one another. So I think that's the only bad thing for me is it makes it a little less likely to see a whole bunch more new detachments come out for Combat Patrol. Because I mean, they've thought. If I've thought about it, they've thought about it, and my guess is that they're going to move in a fashion that keeps people wanting more and collecting and all that stuff. I think both games are safe right now because of it, but I think you're going to get people like us that we will eventually, we'll get around to playing a big game from time to time when we can. But most of the time they're like, hey, you got a couple hours? Let's play Combat Patrol. I'm in, because you can do it. And it's so much of a like, yes, I want to play a big game. Do we have time to carve out, 4-6 hours? Because I mean, come on, man, that's what it's going to take us to play a game that size.
And then the banter, plus if you're going to eat something, it just takes a while, and that's not a complaint. I remember we you talked about Lee playing with your daughter, and I tried to play with my play a game of, this was 40K back in the day, and he was Necrons. He had picked Necrons, so we were going to play a game, and it was great. And then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, right? It's just 4 to 6 hours, like, oh man. And his attention span was 30-40 minutes tops. And so playing a full game, I can't even get him to play Combat Patrol now, even boarding actions. I mean, it's got to be quick. I even had the Underworlds. I have that box. I've assembled the miniatures. I've read the rules. I've punched out all the tokens. I've even played the game online before, the video game version. And so I'm ready to go. And then he just doesn't care at all, one bit. So, I mean, trying to get your kids to play even a Spearhead or Combat Patrol game is sometimes a losing battle. But, Lee, I wonder too, if, since you are a brand new Age of Sigmar player, and even though you've never actually played, the models look awesome. You got Sylvaneth, you got Seraphon. If they maybe, and we'll talk about this when we get to the LVO preview section, but if they come out with brand new Spearhead boxes right out of the gate, in the next couple of months, is there any in particular that you would have your eye on? Or are you just like, no, please don't come out with any more. I've got plenty to build right now.
I mean, I got plenty to build right now, but what I did was I actually traded in some old models, so I had some money sitting that I was like, oh, I'll get a few things. So I had the Sylvaneth Start Collecting box, and then I was just like, that looks cool, and that looks cool, and then before I know it, I've got like another couple of models to add to that. I think with it, my little girl, she's going to want me to buy the Seraphon so she can paint it probably pink. That's probably the choice of color for that one. But last time she painted something pink, it was the Space Marines, and they look scary. So
they were.
So probably depending on what's in that Seraphon box and depending on what's in the Sylvaneth, I think I'll stay there. But I tell you what's really funny, and this is what I loved when I was actually painting the Seraphon. I was painting up just a small band. I asked my little girl to come down and say, hey, can you just help me? Like, what color gold should this be? And she's there coaching me like, oh, that one doesn't look right with those. And this is the right shade. So you need to do this. And I was like, I'm not sure. I would go more with a copper color. And she's like, no, Dad, it's this one. Go with Retributor armor. And I painted it on, and I was like, she's right. Like, Retributor armor is where it was at. So like for me, to go back to your question, I'm going to probably pick up the Seraphon for her, just so that she can have her model.
Yeah, completely just for her, not for you.
Yeah.
Not for me. Yeah. And then the Sylvaneth, I think they just to help bulk out that army. That's what I'm looking at. But then I do like the goblins, the Gloom Spite Gloom Spike or
Gloom
something.
Spike gets, yeah,
That's it. They just look fun with all the mushrooms and things. That they
a
look
lot of
very,
mushrooms.
very psychedelic. You know. So.
Well, so let's speaking of which, I'm going to go back. I'm going to pull up the image here for the Stormcast box just to to look through. So they've got a pretty good smattering, I guess, a variety of models. And I've never actually played Stormcast. I'm building them currently, but there's a couple in here that I definitely have my eye on. I know that Chariot that's in the Spearhead box. I don't really see that a ton in lists, and maybe I'm looking at the wrong list, but I don't see a ton of that. But I think it's a cool looking, gives a Roman vibe to it, and that's probably the point. But pulling this the image up, this is I can't remember the name of this particular. I want to say in Astra or something like that. It's one of those really complicated names, but it's the model with the wings standing on the steps. And man, I've had this one looks amazing, right? This is where I look as a 40K player. I look at the 40K models. I'm like, man, they just don't have this kind of stuff. I mean, maybe Magnus is the closest thing with the wings and really looking amazing, but there's just something about the Age of Sigmar models, and maybe it's because of the fantasy skew to it that just really hits me right away, because I'm usually more of a fantasy Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica kind of thing, but I like both. But this one just, man, it just looks so cool. And I think that the comparison here, and I put this up, just the comparison between Spearhead and Combat Patrol, I'm not necessarily sure that there's going to be any real issue with this. I don't. They've already come up with the recipe with Combat Patrol with 40K. They have the recipe for success. They just released the boxes. Really, they're probably going to take those start collecting boxes, very similar to what they did with Combat Patrol. You take those start collecting boxes, and Lee, I know you just picked up the Sylvaneth start collecting. So you take that, maybe you remove a couple of models or add one here and there, and then reskin it and call it Spearhead. And now you've got, you've got boxes for everything. And from what I remember with Combat Patrol, they released them all at the same time, just about. I don't remember. Of course, my memory's a little fuzzy, but I don't remember them staggering the releases. It was just like, here you go. All the rules are available online. Even if you don't have all the models, you can go ahead and start playing Combat Patrol. And they were going to release it. It was such a huge success, at least for our group, and a welcome sight. I'm really hoping that they do the exact same thing with Spearhead. They have the same type of launch, that make the rules available for free, keep them for free, build it into the Warhammer app. But I know some people don't like the Warhammer. A lot of people don't like the Warhammer app. I personally am fine with it. Whatever. They put that stuff in there. They make them free online, get the PDFs. I think this is a great thing, and I'm really looking forward to it. I am hoping that we see more news coming up next week with the LVO. And I think the price point hopefully will be about the same with Combat Patrol. So really, you think about grandma walking into a Games Workshop store, maybe looking for I've heard this before, where they're trying to get away from Games Workshop and move more towards Warhammer, because if grandma walks into Games Workshop, she's going to be looking for PlayStation. Where's the new Zelda game? Do you have any Xbox in here? And it's like, no, we've only got very expensive toys. And
that aren't put together.
Yeah. By the way, make sure you have some tools for these.
Yeah.
But I think this is a very compelling argument. You got 40K on one side of the wall, Age of Sigmar on the other, and then maybe in the middle, all the other games. I mean, they've just got so much, and I worry about the retail space and how they're going to market everything they have all at the same time. They're going to have to be very strategic on how they market Spearhead and Combat Patrol, but I think these are the two money grabs for them, and they're a business. They're all about the money.
No matter what, whether it's Combat Patrol or the Spearhead, it's a good buy. I mean, it's a smart buy. If you're building an army, you're going to need everything in that box anyway. So you're not really hurting yourself by buying either one of these things. So
Yeah.
From a collector standpoint, I mean, there's rarely any bad units in these boxes. So I mean, they're almost must-haves, you know.
Agreed. Well, I know we're all looking forward to the big announcement, and hopefully that'll be coming up. Here's my segue. Hopefully that'll be coming up in the Las Vegas Open Warhammer Online Preview. Man, that is a mouthful. I wish they'd come up with a different way to put that out there. But if you're unaware, the Warhammer Online Preview is something they do every, I want to say like every quarter. You know, it really depends, but roughly every 2-3 months, something like that. The online preview. And so this one, throw it up here on the screen. This is coming up next week on the 18th, and if you're in the United States and you happen to be on Central Time like we are, it's a little late in the day. I'll do the math for you. If it's Central Time, it's going to be 11 o'clock at night. So I'm gonna throw this little teaser up here. If you are still up at 11 o'clock, because we'll still be for the most part.
Yes.
I'm gonna be drinking some coffee for sure, but I'm very hyped about this, and we're gonna be up. We're gonna be watching this live. So this is my first plug for the show here. We're gonna be doing a live stream. So please, if you are interested and you're gonna be watching this anyway, please join us. We're going to have more information on dadhammerstudios.com. We're going to have a big logo there for you to find out where you can watch that, both on Twitch and YouTube. We'll be live streaming that. We'll be watching the whole event along with you. If you want to join us, throw in some comments while you're there, questions, things you'd like to see, please hit us up during the live stream, or you can also reach out to us on Instagram and, you know, put out there, what do you want? What are you hoping to see for this online preview coming up? But they're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. They're going to be talking about 40K, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, Horus Heresy, Underworlds, and Kill Team. And those are the logos that they put up. So, you know, but fairly straightforward. No Old World, which is a little odd, I thought, because they just announced the Old World. They were talking about this a ton. And then I saw on their Instagram feed and on Twitter that they were touting, hey, you know, join us for the online preview. And then all the comments were like, what? No Old World? And, you know, pitchforks and torches.
Like,
and
calm down.
Well, I mean, they might throw a little bit in there at the end and they just don't want to tell people, you know, they've done that before.
Yeah.
But I'll start, you know, Lee, I'll start with you from a just for the hype of the event. And when they show off new models and all kinds of craziness, is there anything in particular that you are really looking forward to out of all these games? Any particular models or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got my Tau army, and then I have Kroot with that, and I like those models. You know, they're a little bit. If you read a little bit into what they are, I mean, they kill you and they eat you. But like, I like those models. I like the design. I enjoyed painting them, and then I also went ahead and picked up the Fast Stalker Kin Band that was a kill team. And I love painting those. Like that's one of the models that I really enjoyed. And when I sat back, I was like, and it's still a new painter, but I was like, they look good. Like I enjoyed that. So for me, if there is, you know, the talk of Tau and there's talk of Kroot, I'm looking forward to seeing some of those Kroot models. But what was really interesting was I went back and had a look at the Codex like release plan for this year. And what I thought was interesting was if you look at what they're planning to release, you've got a they said, okay, there's a Dark Angels Codex coming out, and then they release on Christmas Day, the Angels arrive. You know, they're not as holy as they are. You know, these was the Dark Angels arrived. You know,
yeah, of course.
but they showed up. And then if you look at the new model silhouettes that came up, there was orcs, and then we started a conversation whether it was Custodes or Votan, and you know, David, you were very much it's Votan because somehow there's this dream that you're going to get some new
Yeah.
models, and I can
Mm.
see it because of the bit that comes over the head. I'm thinking, okay, there's potential. It looks
I don't think it is. Everybody's saying Custodes, and
yeah.
but hey,
There's
I can dream.
That's it. You can dream, but it probably won't be a reality at Las Vegas. But if you look at that, you've got Custodes, and then you've got the big mech. It definitely looks like an orc, and then that definitely 100% looks like a Kroot
Yeah, it's got to
riding
be
on a
right.
lizard. So if you look at that, and then you look at the Codex release schedule in spring, we were looking at Dark Angels, Orcs,
Mm-hmm.
Custodes, and Tau. So this is my prediction. I don't know. Maybe I'll be right, but I wonder if there's going to be announcements in regard to those codexes and these new models that will, tie all those in. Because what we've seen is when a codex comes out, there's usually a new model or two that come along with it. So, but to answer your question, I waffled a lot there. That Kroot Rider, I like that.
Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, I might be tempted to purchase that one and add it into the collection.
Yeah.
But if we
So
can get
for those listening, I put up on the screen here some of the they showed off on there was a couple several weeks ago where they did a little sizzle reel, some shadowy figures, and they showed off some miniatures all in black that you couldn't necessarily tell what they are, but there's been a lot of guesswork, happening amongst the community. So I put together, so we put this on our Instagram, but I put together a little reel and threw in some little artwork and some extra little bits to give it some flavor. But I put in that I was hoping for a Votan leader for one of those, but yeah, it's most likely a Custodes character. But hey, it's okay. I'm the one that made the reel, so I can say whatever I want.
That's right.
I'm hoping for a new Votan. They need something. They need a dreadnought. They need a big boy. They need something, or flyers or anything. Although they are in a good spot right now as far as from a competitive play, they've done a really good job of balancing them out. But I'm always looking for new models. So I think that's what we'll see. I agree on the 40K front. Steve, is there anything from you that you are particularly excited about? Hopeful about within LVO on the 40K side? Anything in particular outside of the course of your beloved Dark Angels and the Codex, which is most likely going to be showed off in more detail?
Yeah. Now let me remember the Necrons. Was it only kind of hyped up that there was going to be 3 characters, or are there 4 characters?
I
can't remember.
I
It's
don't
been a
remember. Yeah.
I can't see them like leaning into Necrons anymore for right now. I mean, they got a pretty good bit of love at the first of the year, kind of thing. I really am not sure about Kill Team, but that's not 40K. I want to see and them talk about, I know we just talked about it, but more detachments for Combat Patrol. Because they've only really, put out one in White Dwarf. I'd like to see them talk about it. Like maybe who's next, what's next, that kind of thing. Gosh, models. I haven't really thought about it a whole lot.
Well, going back to the detachments though, so you think that they would maybe like Combat Patrol version 2 or something, and they come out with just different detachments? That my only concern there is that, are you getting too far away from the spirit of what Combat Patrol is? It's just here's your papers, you print them out and you go. And now that now you've got 3 more detachments to choose from. Maybe that's something they put in the Codex, that if you want to get crazy with it, you can buy the book, or you can get them online or whatever you're going to do, but get the rules from another source. And if you want to ratchet up your Combat Patrol games, you have that option. But for everybody else that's just kind of limping into the game, just print off these rules, buy the box, and get going. So yeah, I don't know if they would actually add detachments, but Lee, you and I have talked about this too. What would be really awesome is if they gave you the option to do like a +1 on your Combat Patrol or your Spearhead. So like, hey, did you like this? Did you like playing these guys? Did you like your new Stormcast army? Did you like your new Seraphon army with Combat Patrol? You might want to think about, why don't you add these 2 models? And because for me, the problem when you go in, you're a brand new player, you walk into a Warhammer store, that's the first question you ask. Okay, what's good? What do I buy next? Inevitably, the manager always says, "Well, it just depends. Everything's good. Buy it all." And like, okay, I get the point, but that's just not. It's not helpful because there's so much. I can't just go buy everything. That's not smart, So maybe it'd be a challenge for sure. How would they come up with some kind of guide to take you from one point to the next? But I digress. I think getting some new stuff out there for Combat Patrol coming in White Dwarf, hopefully. But with LVO next week, I am hopeful that maybe they show off some new 40K models. Those are always great. They give us a codex release window. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping for a Votan, codex. That'd be nice. But I'll take orcs as well. I'll take a new big mech. That'd be cool. Lee, anything in particular from the 40K side that you'd be any towel that you've got your eyes potentially set on?
I mean, again, like I already said, I want to see those Kroot army. I'd love to see what happened if Kroot became their own army and roll out. So that's where it's at for me. I think that's where it's going to be. I can't see them dropping. Maybe there's a new Tau big suit coming in. I know they did the Ethereal as the store anniversary. Maybe that's a precursor to some stuff. But again, I had so much fun painting those Kroot that I would love to see some of those models come about. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Well, let me pull up something else. What about this guy, this little cat that they showed as a picture? Is that 40K? Is that Age of Sigmar? Is that like Curse City? Is that something else? What do you think?
So I wonder
Thousand Suns.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they kind of flow with that whole Egyptian.
It's a cyborg cat. I mean, it looks like a cyborg cat. It's got like Terminator eyes and the little metal coming out of it. So it's I don't know if you noticed that on its paw and on the body and also on the eyes. It almost gives me the like Ghostbusters, the dogs, or when Rick Moranis. When he has the crazy eyes and he does the growl. So maybe this is a Ghostbusters thing. Maybe they're coming out with a new miniatures game to go alongside, and it's Ghostbusters, the miniatures. I'm just kidding. But I mean, I think, Lee, you had originally said Chaos, maybe Fabius Bile, but I don't know. I think this is going to be more maybe a Warcry or Warband or something like that. Steve, what are your thoughts on this guy? Any ideas or predictions?
No way. I mean, I've been so wrong on so many of those because it could be anything. Could it? I guess there's a possibility of maybe a Flesh Eater Court. I mean, I know that's Sigmar, but because they didn't really specify. Did they specify that this was 40K or
no? They just put up a picture of a cat and the internet and cats. So
you could go weird. You could get real weird, but I don't know why or where they'd put it. But some sort of new Inquisitor model or maybe a Rogue Trader kind of
I could see
but
that.
I don't know where you'd put them because they're just like allied units. They're not really their own army unless they make room for a new faction.
Oh
yeah, I would love.
That's a big
I would
deal.
love
I
know. I would love an Inquisitor army. Like that would be cool.
Man, that'd be.
I just don't know. Could you do 2,000 points of Inquisitor stuff? That's a lot. I don't know if they could actually do that. But we can dream, of course. And then if you tell Games Workshop that, like, well, yeah, we've got plenty of Inquisitor models. You can do whatever you want. Like, yes, I know, but I want it in a box, force fed to me, and please take my money. I want that exercise. So
is it possible that this is a old world model that they didn't
Did
just
it on
imagine.
purpose.
Yeah, they're like,
good
hey,
point.
I tell you what, let's not put the graphic up there because that's what people want, but let's do a sneaky thing at the bottom that if you scroll down, you see it, because then that would fit within the Tomb King's realm with the Egyptian. Like,
With the
I don't,
cats. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know you say like his eyes look, look almost cyborg like, and one of those paws just does look metallic, or is it just that he's a cat that's got a gray paw? I don't know. But I wonder if it's just we know what you want, but we're gonna put this as a sneaky suggestion of what could be.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Well,
It could be a
we'll see.
like a bait and switch. Like we're gonna bait you in to watch it to find out what this is, and then it's
A
an
full.
old.
No, they're just going to come out with a full cat army. There's just going to be nothing but cats, and everywhere. They're going to be skeletal cats and little minion cats, and boy, that would be terrible.
Dog servitors.
Oh my gosh! Like what a terrible idea that I just came up with. It's like
Yeah.
I hope not. Man, this is why I'm not on the design team. Yeah, really bad. Well, let's move on to things that potentially would be a little more exciting. I'm going to switch over now to where these are potentially Age of Sigmar. These are the mysteries, and for the listeners, I've got a couple of images up on the screen. These are just from what the Warhammer community site had on the sizzle reel. More shadowy. I'm looking at Dark Oath Cavalry, potentially Night Haunt, and I also put I put Lumineth on here. It's totally not Lumineth. I had the waterfall look to it, but I think it's more like Daughters of Cain, most likely. But I don't know. I thought Lumineth might be cool. They looked kind of dancey, prancy kind of person. That looks Lumineth to me, but it's most likely Daughters of Cain. And then I'm going to say Callus and Toll. Those are the two characters from the Warhammer Plus, the TV show, where they had an episode. Right. I want to say, was it a Hammer and Bolter? I don't remember, but it was a really cool episode. It had the spooky stuff going on. So that's what I think those two guys are. But, at the same time, going back to the Dark Oath Cavalry and the Night Haunt, there's no real guarantee that they're going to show all of this at the preview. Yeah, this is they just put the shadows up there, thinking this is potentially coming, but it's just to get people like us to talk about it. So, I am wondering if they're going to reveal every single one of these shadowy models at LVO. I think that's a high possibility that they'll do a good bunch of them. Maybe not all of them, but they did hype them in the teaser. So I would say there's a good possibility for it. I wonder too, and this is where I want to kind of steer the questions next is, do you think they're going to do a full reveal of Spearhead? Is that going to come during LVO, or are they just going to focus on models? So Steve, I'll go to you. Is this going to be just a big model reveal to go through all the shadows and maybe some accessories or special events or something like that? And maybe they talk about the codex for 40K, or do you think they're really going to go, hey, here's all of Spearhead and here's the full release schedule?
I think, I feel like the cat's out of the bag for Spearhead. I think that's where it's
no
headed.
Pun intended, because yeah.
Nonetheless, I think, gosh, a cat army. A cat
I know,
combat.
right?
Yeah, a cat Spearhead. Why not?
I'm allergic to cats. That'd be terrible.
That'd be your worst nightmare.
It would be.
So would they do them all? I could see 3. I could see
just 3,
or what is there? There's
a random number.
Here's
3. You and 2 people can play.
So what is there? Like order, chaos, what are they? Destruction?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what I was thinking. Death. Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe 4. All right. So 3 more in addition to whatever you have, right? With the promise of more to come. I don't know. I don't think they do them all. I don't know if they do them all.
You don't think so? I think they do a big graphic like they did with Combat Patrol. Here's everything coming out. You just wait.
Okay.
And,
okay.
and because they already have those for the most part. They already have all the models in
Oh,
those
yeah.
boxes. Those SKUs exist. They just need to put the red, little banners around the boxes, and maybe get the people in the graphic design department to move the models in a different direction or whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm obviously it's more difficult than that. But still, I think they've got it all available. So, I mean, Lee, do you think they're going to release this full Spearhead thing? Here it is, the full reveal, or is it going to be more of a here's a teaser, and then join us in a month where we talk about the full thing?
I think they might as well just drop it all in one go. I think trying to drip feed this, I think I would drop it all in one go, get people hyped about it, and then begin to roll out like the new different models and things like that to just bulk it out. But I think if they're going to drip feed it, I think people are going to get frustrated because it's like, oh, hey, we want to play, we want to do this. So drop it all at the same time, drop the rules at the same time, and then just sit back and watch your stock and share prices go like that, So
And that's the way to do it. Yeah,
that's it. I think that's
yeah.
how. There's no point in complicating it. Obviously, they've got the stock because the models are there. So hopefully there's not going to be the sellout and the waiting in the queue to get your waiting in line and all of that. But you never know. But I would say they would drop it all and just let it roll and see what happens.
Well, the stock problem continues to plague them. I mean, they've had that with the old world. Continue to have that problem, and I went and looked at it the other day, and it was immediately out of stock. The one of I think it's the Bretonian box. Oddly enough, I was thinking it'd be the Tomb Kings, but no, everybody went Bretonian. Either that, or they just didn't have enough of the Bretonians for whatever reason. But stock problems continue to be an issue for them just to keep all their product on the shelves. So some of that I think is just like false availability. Maybe they don't print enough intentionally, but that's me being more of a cynic. I think if I'm thinking optimistically, maybe they're just running out as they don't know how popular it's going to be.
I read in an article on Wargamer. Is that right? Yeah, Wargamer website today, and they were talking about maybe this year or next that Warhammer has talked about adding a new manufacturing factory. I think they were looking at sites in and around Nottingham to expand their productivity. So I can't imagine something like Wargamer magazine or whatever just throwing that out there and they're
Getting
not
the scoop.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a weird article to write without some amount of credibility for it, and because there's no doubt they need it. They could use one over here. I mean, I don't know, but it's probably better to keep it close to the home base.
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, Games Workshop is still a small company, right? Relatively speaking. So they're not just going to do global warehousing like Amazon or something. I mean, they've got to keep that close to the chest, or everything that you talked about, Lee, with the stock prices. They have shareholders to think about, so they have to be real careful with that. And I think what a lot of fans don't fully understand, it's not that they intentionally want to keep the stock low and they want to sell out, because every time they sell out, that means lost revenue. That means somebody that is sitting there wanting to please take my money is not able to because they didn't stock enough. But then you have the flip side where maybe they make too much and it's just sitting on the shelf and nobody buys anything, and then they have to take a loss. So it's a difficult conundrum, but every retail manufacturer of any type of product deals with it. This is just the way it goes. So you deal with the internet hordes shaking fists and telling you that, oh man, I can't believe you made this decision. But it's every company goes through this. But I think that they are positioned for success with coming up with LVO. Very excited. What I wanted to end the show with is just a question to the two of you, and I'll start. I want to know, what's your swing for the fences, home run pick? Hope, like wishful thinking. What's your wishful thinking pick for something that they're going to announce at LVO that no one has said anything about? And I say no one. I mean, obviously we've heard rumors and things. I'm going to start, and I've heard this rumor. I've seen it around. I have no idea whether or not it's coming at LVO. I haven't read anything. I am hoping for some Chaos Dwarfs, and I looked it up. It is dwarfs with an FS, not a dwarves with a VES. Because I'm a huge dork, I looked this up, and apparently the dwarves with a VES came from the Tolkien side, and dwarfs came from the original. I guess that was the original fantasy on the Warhammer side. I don't know if that originated there, but it's Chaos Dwarfs. Anyway, very important knowledge to have. You're welcome. But I am hoping for Chaos Dwarfs, and not in the old world, because I know that was a lot of people were disappointed that hadn't shown up on the old world. But there is talk that they would release Chaos Dwarfs for Age of Sigmar. And as someone who loves the Votan, and I play a dwarf character usually if ever I play D&D or World of Warcraft, that would be awesome. I would love to see a Chaos Dwarf army teased or released or talked about in some regard, with, I don't know, riding big boars and, siege weapons and all kinds of stuff. That, man, I would go all into that.
It'd be awesome.
Even especially if they did Spearhead. So that's my shot in the dark pick. I have nothing to back that up with, other than I've heard there's a potential for Chaos Dwarfs coming out for Age of Sigmar. So Lee, I'll go to you first. What is your pie in the sky? Man, I hope they come out with this. I have nothing to back this up with. Do you have a guess or maybe a prediction?
I would love to see a Kroot codex drop, and then be a full-on Kroot army.
No doubt.
I just think it would be so much fun. I mean, right now, let's just say when you put the Kroot models on the board, they're like cannon fodder. They one wound. It's like, I painted it for 6 hours. Bye. Oh man, that's my favorite. But I'd love to see a Kroot army. I just think that would be fun to play, fun to paint as well. So that would be my my one. And then again, it's a lizard type person riding dinosaurs and things like that. So there's that Seraphon, Kroot kind of mix there. But who doesn't like lizards riding dinosaurs?
Everybody. Yeah, with
exactly.
lasers and missiles.
Lasers and missiles.
Or maybe the dinosaur has tank tread instead of feet. Right. So you've got half dinosaur with tank tread with a lizard riding on top. I mean, yeah. Throw some wings on there while you're at it.
Maybe Kroot have got hold of a T-Rex and given him actually like decent size arms, so he's not incredibly frustrated all the time.
like Toy Story with
Rex.
What's his name? Rex.
Yeah. I've got these tiny arms. That's why I'm so aggressive.
So, all right, a Kroot army. I don't know if either one of us so far are going to be, seeing this home run hit, but that's okay. That's the reason we guess. Steve, what have you got? Anything crazy for us?
Space Marines.
Space Marines. No. Yeah.
Ravenwing. Only because it's been so long. Most specifically, Samael, the Master of the Hunt, the leader of the Raven, because he's such a cool character, man. He's on a jet bike when the other dude's got wheels. So it's almost like a Custodes bike. But man, I'd love to see new Ravenwing stuff. I think that's a little bit high hopes, because Dark Angels are getting big love with that one big release, but it's only half the army.
Yeah,
or really only a third of the army.
right.
So I'd love to see some new bikes, speeders, but just if you threw a new leader out there, I think that'd be cool. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. So basically, Lee, you're not wrong. More Space Marines. There's
That's what we need. We just need
more Space Marines.
Who doesn't? They're the most bestest.
Well, what's funny is that they are the most popular army. The Space Marines are the most popular, but amongst like most of the hardcore fans of Warhammer, it's like rooting for the Yankees, right? You're just like, no, don't pick the Space Marines, right? But they're popular for a reason. I probably like their lore. There's some of the best lores, the deepest, it's most interesting, the making of a Space Marine, and it's really cool. So I'm not dogging on them. I'm kidding. But I think there's a lot of excitement building up to LVO. I think there's all kinds of cool possibilities. I would love to see something just crazy that no one saw coming. But nowadays with the internet, it's very difficult to surprise and delight people anymore. Well, hard enough to delight, much
Oh,
less surprise them.
gosh.
So yeah, I don't know. They might just go for a nice neutral, a
Mm.
nice neutral meh is really probably the goal for most companies now. If we can get there and not just have hate, then we've accomplished the goal. So
See, I need something to go along with my Barons of Dice Ravenwing dice I just bought.
yeah, right,
Ah.
right. Yeah, there you go.
See, I need some new models for that.
Yeah, always need new models. Well, very exciting. We're all excited for LVO for sure. I will plug it one more time. If you are interested in the LVO live show, please join us on Twitch or YouTube, whichever you prefer. We will be watching it. It'll be in this kind of format. We'd love to see your comments, your questions. Hit us up on Instagram as well. But if you go to the website, dadhammerstudios.com, you can get all the details about how you can join us. 11 p.m. Central. And I don't know about all the math with all the other time zones. I think a Pacific time was 9 p.m. I think that's accurate. So it's going to be a late one for some of us, but I'm going to make a double espresso, and I'll be ready, be ready to go. So, but please join us. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Dadhammer Podcast. Thank you to my buddies, Medicae Steve and Mr. Lee, the chaplain himself. Hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.